Hey technicians, it's Jen from Draftline, and today I'm here to give you a quick tutorial, well, maybe not so quick, on how to use our mobile application, the Draftline Smart System. So, whichever device you're on, whether it's iOS, you're going to get that from the App Store, or Android, you're going to go and download it from Google Play. You will type in Draftline Smart System and search for that, click on the app open, and just download it to your device. When you do that, make sure that you allow Draftline access to access your location, because this will allow our GPS functionality to work. If you click it by mistake and you don't allow it, then you can delete the app, move on, re-download it, and go from there. We will be monitoring that all the time, so we'll let you know if we have a problem and if you've clicked any of the incorrect download settings. Um, so I think that most of you guys are working off of your own phones, so we support 98% of the phones out there. We should be fine. So today what we're going to talk about is all the intricacies that you need to know to get rolling next week on Monday. You will all have our what we call our startup paperwork that will have your login information, your password information, which is all going to be different than what you see here today. This is just a ghost account for me. You will have contact information for Rebecca Williams. Uh, she is the team leader for Startup. Our support at draftlinesmartsystem.com email address. You will have my email, you will have my phone number as well. I'm Jen, and we're here to make sure that we can address everything you need to see in Draftline and get the information filtered through as quickly as possible. I'm based out of Orlando. Rebecca is in California, but we have a team of people working with us uh, throughout, speckled throughout the country, and also a couple of girls in Europe, Marina and Petra, who are really our early morning support staff. We start at about 3:30 a.m., 4 a.m. So if you have changes that need to come in, you just make sure that you get those to the support at draftlinesmartsystem.com email or one of our uh, phone numbers. You text it. Most of the changes, if we need things on the fly, written word always prevails because it's easy for us to keep a running list of that. So if that's a text, if that is an email, that's fantastic, especially for something that's a long change. But especially in early days here as we're starting, we want to make sure that you feel free to call us. I would just say if you are starting at 4 in the morning Eastern time and you would prefer to call me, that would be for the best, because Rebecca likes to sleep once in a while, and that's very early in her time zone. So if it's early morning, definitely get a hold of me first. Now, as your changes come in, and we're anticipating that we're going to have a lot of route changes because we have certain technicians that did not get us all the information we would have liked to have seen, and I will try and request that from you at the startup meeting on Friday. We will be filtering through that information, and we also might not get it all done at once, but if it's immediate need, like we need to have it in the system for the next day, we're going to have that there. We're going to make sure that we get you rolling the next day, but you might not see changes that you need for a week and a half out the next day. So be aware of that, because we've got a lot of data that's going to be coming in over the next 2 week cycle. So again, take photos of those route change forms, email them to the support at draftlinesmartsystem.com email address. System builder changes on the fly. We'll talk about this as we roll through the video. Make sure that you text us, call us, and say, hey, I'm at such and such account. My name is Charles, and I need, 5 extra faucets at this account. I'll show you how to do that today, but always feel free to call us, because the whole purpose of Draftline and the support staff on the cloud is to keep you guys moving throughout the day. So, and I see that I've already logged in, so I'm going to show you how to log out. So, as you get your startup paperwork, you will have your email address, and you're going to use that to log in. And then you're going to have a password that's going to be longer than this one. And what I want you to do is just input that email address and password, and you're going to log in. What we're going to do here today is I'm going to walk you through what a typical line cleaning looks like on a first date of service, and then also what the brand changes look like on a later date of service. So this is your trip planner. You're going to click into the day and you're going to see all the trips that are scheduled for you on that day. As we move through this, what I want you to do today and over the weekend, I want you to look at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then moving on from there and see if we have a lot of changes. One of the biggest differences between Draftline and the system that you're currently using internally is that we're going to expect you 100% to work on the day that is scheduled. We have pretty extensive reporting that's going to look out and see if anybody's working off day that is assigned. And we're going to come back to you and insist that we get the schedule in a way that you can work on it on the day it's assigned. Now, that being said, why is that important? Number one, accounting. Um, Everything that we're going to be billing must be entered through Draftline. And that means if it is not, uh, your company does not get paid for it. And in turn, we don't get paid and you won't get paid. So we need to make sure that we are accounting for every single faucet, every single brand that is cleaned through Draftline. And that's why we need to have a very good flow of communication back and forth with you. We've done this with hundreds of technicians, a whole lot of service centers, and I know it can be done. And so, that being said, um, you will be using the mobile application as you work throughout your day. As you get to your first account, you're going to check in, and your last account, you're going to check out from that account. This is not a system where you are going to go home and enter the information on your couch later in the evening, because number one, we will be able to see that. And number two, the reality of that is that the data that you are entering, the likelihood that that is correct plummets if you are not using it as we're prescribing today on this video. So I'm going to hit very hard on you working on the day that is scheduled, because that also makes sure that your cooler stickers match. And we may come back to you after startup and ask you to start taking photos of those cooler stickers on site, and always feel available to do that, or free to do that, because we want to make sure that our cooler stickers are filled out and that that is matching up with what is in Draftline. That is key for keeping our wholesalers within real-time compliance, okay? Because everything you enter here is going back to their brewery compliance reports, going back to billing. It's all vital. So, enough about my lecturing. For today, we're going to click on Lumon Park. That's going to be our first account. You're going to go to the overview page here, and you're going to see a Google generated photo. You can get directed. You see the date and time that the line cleaning is scheduled, not the date and time that you are required to do it. So keep that in mind. This is a flexible time. You will see the trip title. This is line cleaning. We also, in line cleaning, are typically recurring trips, but we're also going to be pushing service trips in a couple of weeks through Draftline. So we're going to push through the first 1 or 2 cycles of line cleaning, and then we're going to start to add service trips. If the email for the account is in Draftline, you will be able to swipe to call or text. Also, you will see which technicians are assigned to this particular trip. 99.9% of instances, unless, for example, you're doing a stadium, it's going to be one technician, and the little alien figurine next to my name, that means I'm the foreman. That makes me responsible for the checkout options, which we'll get into later. So we're going to navigate. This is an iOS device. It's an Apple phone. We're going to navigate from the bottom of the screen. If it were Android, you would navigate from the top of the screen, and we're going to go to the Tasks button. We'll click on that. That's going to bring us to our Tasks page. And for this, you're always going to see the Safety First guidelines. Many of you know we started out as chemical manufacturers. You use the chemical products our other company manufactures. I always want you to pay attention and wear your safety glasses and wear your safety gloves. Always use pH paper as well. So I won't lecture on that too much because that's not the topic today. But bottom right of the screen, you're going to see the green button. You're going to click that when you exit your vehicle to start service on that account. The reason why we have you check in, and that is the check-in button, when it turns blue, the clock is basically ticking for that account you're servicing. The reason why we have you check that when you hit the parking lot before you unload your stuff is because this is the amount of time that your company is paying you to service that particular account. We are going to be moving into a phase of reporting with our retailers and our wholesalers where we're providing them real-time reporting, and within that they're going to see the amount of time that you service that account for. If we are not doing this on a regular basis for each trip as we get there, and when you check out, it's going to be after you've loaded up all of your stuff, after you've taken the faucet survey, all of those things, because we're going to be accountable for our time to our retailers, to our wholesalers, and obviously to our employer. So going to check in, and basically you're going to put the device away. You're going to go in, you're going to perform the service, you're going to get the chemical pumping through the lines, and after you brush down your faucets and stuff, broken those apart, when you have some time, you're going to go into this gray bubble, and this is your line cleaning checklist. Now, this particular account has multiple systems. 90% of accounts, I would say, just have one system. So I'm going to click on the glycol unit up at the top. And these are our line cleaning checklists. Now, I would say that, I don't know, 90% of the time, well, 100% of the time, you're going to check regular maintenance. Always, 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 whether it's recirculation or static, the first 4 steps of beer line cleaning are regular maintenance, and that is a box you will tick. Now, if you are doing New Belgium lines, you're always going to tick that you used a recirculation pump. And then you would verify that by clicking down at the bottom right. But for example purposes, I'm going to show you regular maintenance if you are performing a static or pressure pot or cleaning can, whatever the terminology is that we use at your service center, you're going to click static. So that's when you're not using a recirculation pump, and that's a large percentage of the market. But again, if you're doing New Belgium lines, you're going to use a recirculation pump and check that off there. So regular maintenance for most of your accounts up at the top, static cleaning for, again, most of the accounts with the exception of the New Belgium lines and the ones that you are actually using a recirc pump at. And 4 times a year quarterly, you're going to do an acid cycle. So at the bottom right, you're going to click off on that. Now, it's key that we have these items checked off for our real-time compliance reports for New Belgium, because they are tracking all of these items, especially the recirc right there and the acid cleaning cycle. This pre-populates all the reports for the office, so we don't have to do them. You're verifying that you're servicing this particular system with these methods at the time of service, and therefore it's tracked. If you do not check the correct boxes, our information is not correct. So I think it's really self-explanatory, but if anybody has a question, especially in early days, I absolutely need you to reach out to me to make sure that you're understanding your duties on this part. But we've made it a very simple checklist. You should be fine. But any questions, you need to call Jen. So bottom right-hand corner, we're going to verify those items by checking that circle with a check mark. When you come back, you're going to see here that the line cleaning options are going to say partially completed. This is simply a visual indicator for you, so you do not have to check back through all the boxes to get to the tasks verification screen. It's always going to say partially completed. Nobody's tracking that. That is just for you, so you don't have to go back through. So now we're going to go to the faucets. For Draft Beer Services of Atlanta, this is much more complicated because you guys are cleaning for a heck of a lot of wholesalers. So first, we're going to verify that we have, disassembled our faucets, cleaned with a brush, soaked them, and we'll do that by clicking all the following are completed. Then, down here at the bottom, I am certain that you have certain systems within your markets where you are cleaning all the lines, and you would tick apply to all 11 faucets there. Now, if you are in a retail location and say you're only cleaning 3 of the lines, the way we take our faucet surveys is bartender view. As you stare at the tower, you're going to go from your left all the way to your right. So faucet number 1 is going to be on the left, and you're going to work your way over to the right as we populate this information. So in this instance, I'm going to say on tower 1, we cleaned faucet 1 and 2 and 3, and then tower 2, say we cleaned faucet 2. And as we move through this, it'll make sense. On initial upload, you're just going to see faucet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so forth. So bottom right, we're going to verify that we service those faucets. That consists of the faucets that we are billing for. We have a whole lot of reports that we're going to be looking at to make sure that we're checking off all the correct boxes. But say, for instance, that you service the Cigar City at the bottom of the screen and you did not tick it off in this box, that would be considered a miss and that would be lost revenue. And that is not what we want. We want to make sure that you are verifying every single faucet that we service, because if we don't, we're not going to get paid. So at the end of the day, good accounting on all fronts for time, for the faucets and items that we service. Now, that'll take us back to the tasks page again. Faucets will show partially completed. In this instance, that is correct. At the bottom of the screen in the middle, we're going to click on notes. This section is going to be used very heavily by you guys, because if we ever have an instance where they're out of beer, we get turned away, we want to note what's going on at that location and why we were not able to perform that service, or if indeed we need to reschedule it for the next day. Now, we'll go into the statuses and all those sorts of things later, but just know that if you put a note in this box, somebody's going to read it. So what I'm going to do is hello, no beer. And this would go into, if we had a trip that had this type of situation, it would go into no work performed. And anything in no work performed, we want to note as to why it's in no work performed. And we'll talk about that status a little later. So we click the little paper airplane. That's going to send our note off. Also here we have the camera. You can take photos. I want to see photos of cooler stickers that are going to be matching up with the signatures on the days we need. Also, if you're in a cooler, and this would be for an installation, a remodel, something like that, and we want to take photos. If you are in a cooler for an extended period of time, you're going to lose signal, and therefore you might not be able to use your camera roll on the app. But that's okay, because you can just choose a photo from your camera roll there. So basically, and you see my computer, that's it. You use photo, it gets added, and it's off and running to the dashboard. It does take a moment for that to upload, and there are certain functions on here, photo upload, signature upload, where there is a bit of a time delay that's going to be based on your signal, but it does make it up to the cloud, and that's the most important thing to know. So that's the notes section. Here under system, this is what we are populating when we do our brand surveys. And the difference between this page and the page over here on tasks, where we were verifying that we were servicing certain faucets, the difference is here we're entering the brands for every single faucet on the system. Not the ones we clean, not the ones we're interested in. Every single faucet, bartender view left to right, should be entered here. We will be monitoring that that is getting done on a regular basis by each and every technician. The reality is you're not going to like me the first 2 weeks, but I do promise you that once you're fully up to speed and you're in an account that isn't excessively large, that this will take you 30 seconds or less start to finish to fill out each trip on your day. And it really does become a time saver for you. And the whole purpose of the cloud support, myself, Rebecca, Petra, Marina, Chuck, Drew, is that we're there to help you through your day. So this is an investment in helping you guys navigate through your day, get the information in a little bit easier, and we're here to work with you. So as we enter these brands, I'm going to go through how it rolls out and some intricacies to this page. So faucet number 1, this is what you're going to see on upload. So Monday when you log into your accounts, you are going to have no brand information in this section. We're going to be populating those. So for this one, let's say it's Budweiser, and we will have populated your brand lists. So as you start to type in the first 3 letters, everything will populate that we recognize within DraftLine already. And bottom right of the screen, you're going to click next. And if you know the distributor, pop the distributor in. If you do not know the distributor or you have a question, you're going to put independent. And what that helps us do is recognize the ones that we need to do a little research on, because we've got extensive brand lists and data, so we can go back. We have it broken down by each of your territories. So if you can help us out by having that distributor in there, that would be great. Now, in the case of Budweiser, I'm sure that everybody knows their distributors. And again, this is a ghost service center, so this is fake information, but you're going to click next, and that's going to bring you down to this notes box. Don't ever put any notes in this notes box. It's been grossly misused over the years. And on the next version, I think I'm going to delete it. So we're not tracking anything in that section. So what is important here is Budweiser, the brand, and the distributor. Faucet 1, you're just going to leave that faucet 1, and we're going to fix that when it gets back onto the dashboard. You're going to then click OK, and that is going to submit our brand change request. We're going to click OK. Now, you're still going to see faucet number 1 until somebody goes in on the dashboard and accepts that brand. So that's what our staff is doing, is they're filtering through all the information to make sure it's correct, typos, everything, to make sure our reporting looks impeccable for our wholesalers. So let's go down to faucet number 2 and do that again. This is one where it's already been entered, but it's pending. It's not been accepted into the system yet. So I will just click again on Yingling, next, and this one, for argument's sake, is called Gara. And we're going to click next again, and the information's now input. Okay, it's off and running. Now, let me show you an example a little further down on this other tower. This one already has Angry Orchard. When you get back out on the second cycle of service, you're going to back out the information if the brand has changed, and we're going to change it to the correct information. And really, we only care about the brand and distributor box. Feel free to leave name empty or don't even back it out, because we will know that you guys are tracking by brand. We don't want you to take the time to fill everything out when we can do it really quickly on the dashboard. So again, though, brand always, bartender view left to right. You got to go down the line and line up all of the information for the faucets on each and every single one. Now, if you are in a location and you have this many faucets, I would expect that you would be able to fill it out one at a time. It's going to take you a little while, but you're going to get the hang of it after a couple of days. If you are at a location, you have 20 taps or more, you really need to reach out to us so we can help you fill that information in. Ideally, what would happen is you would text us and say, Jen and or Rebecca, I'm at a location. I'm going to write a list down for you, or I have a beer menu for you. I'm going to take a photo of that or email it. And also reference the wholesalers next to those brands that you know for sure. And we're going to go in and enter all of that information. If photos are sent, because you could do a photo in the startup phase only, you have to indicate in that photo which brands you cleaned, who your wholesalers are for those brands, and it will take about 24 hours to process those requests and get those brands in. So that's for the startup phase only. After the first cycle, changes will definitely need to be made from the mobile app. But if we have a Yard House or a World of Beer or some other type of crazy big beer system, then we want to make sure that you feel comfortable with texting, calling, emailing, sending those photos, because the expectation is that we're here to help you get those brands in, and we want to speed you up throughout your day. We don't want to slow you down. So make sure that if you have a day where you are working on a system like that, the best thing to do is text us when you get there and say Jen or Rebecca. And by the way, don't text both of us individually. If you want to do it on a group chat between Rebecca and I, that's great. But don't text one and then text the other, because then we start working over each other and we can make errors. But say, hey, I'm just arriving at Yard House or Tilted Kilt, something with a big beer system. Just a heads up, I'm going to be sending you my brands. And then we'll come back to you and say, hey, no problem, and work it out with you while you're on site. Excuse me, guys. Also, a couple other points. If you, and we are going to have a number of accounts that are like this based on the system builder information that we got from you guys. If you get to an account and it's not a glycol like you see up here in the left hand corner, excuse me, and it's direct draw, let us know on the system builder on the route change form that that is something that has changed. Also, if you have faucet 1, 2, 3, but oops, you need a 4, you're going to go across this tower bar and you're just going to swipe across left to right, or I should say right to left with your thumb, just like that. The opposite of how we're tracking the faucets at the tower. You're going to click the plus sign and you're going to input the brand just like you would for entering a brand on a faucet that had already existed. And we'll say, so I'm just putting in some minor, we'll put minor distributing. Next. Okay, bam, and it's off and running. So keep that in mind. Swipe across to add a faucet, and that adds it to the far right of the tower bartender view. So bartender view left to right, this adds it to the far right. Now, couple of other notes. I think we have checked out here. No, we have not. Okay, so heads up, kids, because after finish everything up, you're back out to your vehicle, you've loaded everything up in your truck, you're ready to go to the next stop. What I want you to do is check out. And you're going to hit that blue box, and we're going to end the trip instance. So our statuses are completed, partially completed, and no work performed. Completed is going to be hopefully 90% of the trips that you're doing. We're going to be watching that very closely. Partially completed is something like the stadium where you went in one day, but you've got to come back the next day to finish. Very, very seldom used, but pretty much for you guys, it would only be in stadiums or super large venues. No work performed. No work performed is a status that for every single service center, 5 to 7% of trips fall into. And that is where you as the technician showed up to do your job, but for whatever reason you got turned away. No beer, no gas, nobody home, whatever it is, that would be no work performed. And right under here in the notes section, that's where you would add a note before you set the trip status for this. Another thing to keep in mind is that you guys can add notes and different things later, but I'm going to pound in your minds that the accuracy of all those things is going to greatly diminish after you leave the site. So I want everything done on site, and we're tracking where everything's entered. So please just help me and make sure you do it at the location and we head off any problems. So for this particular trip, we're going to say it's completed. That is going to take it out of the active status, and you're going to start to see throughout the day that your trips are going to populate. And for this one, I'm just going to fly through a line cleaning and show you how fast eventually this will go for you. And you will see me going through all the steps. And for this one, we'll say that we're only cleaning the Miller. Apply. And let's say because I'm tracking a competitive brand, we're going to back out this one. And we're going to say it's a Bud. Did that. Bud Light. Next. And say it's Premier Distributing. Maybe that has changed with that. And then we're going to click OK. That's going to send it off. Again, I'm going to collect a signature. And this is just so you can see how fast it can be navigated through. I have an extra bubble on my screen there, so sometimes you see something a little different and I went too far. So now I'm finished with this trip. In theory, if I needed to add a note, I would add the note there, but I'm going to check out. This one I'm going to say, though, is going to be no work performed because I want you to see how that feeds back to your trips page. So everything's color-coded throughout the day. When you log into your route for the first time or here over the weekend, if we need to make changes to the order of this, I have brought multitudes of copies of route change forms, and I need you to reach out to me if you need one of those. If you want to handwrite it, that's fine. If you want to type it in Excel, we'll make sure that you have that. And on this section, this is where we have the trips. We have some reports that are going to be pushed to this. We have messaging, settings, which is going to also on this about, it's going to show you the version of the mobile application that you're on. Over the next months, I'm sure that we will have at least 2 or 3 updates coming through. If you have your auto updates on through your device settings, that would be the best, because then they just automatically push to your phone and then I don't have to bug you and say, hey, you're out of date. So, big things. All orders, all trips, as I say, should be out of the open status at the end of the day. If you're not, if they are not complete, then change it to no work performed and put in a note of when you would like that scheduled or why you can't make that account up. At the end of the day, if you can't hit something, um, we want you to text us so we can move those accounts to a different day. We can make one-time changes until the cows come home, but the expectation is through this startup process, week 1, 2, 3, 4, is that we will have these routes in an order that is manageable and in an order that you can complete them every single day. And so we're not going to jump around from here to there. We never, ever, ever are going to work outside of a calendar week. I never want to see you doing trips that were due on Friday on the Monday. We're going to miss out on billing for those. Obviously, we have reports and all different sorts of things that we're going to be watching to make sure we capture those, but you need to have the trips moved to the day that you are on and working on the mobile application. So if we vary from these instructions, you will be hearing from me because we need everybody moving in the same direction, doing everything uniformly. So I really look forward to working with you guys. I've met quite a few of you, and I think we're going to have um, a great relationship moving forward. It's going to be a rough couple of weeks here, but hang in there. It'll get better. All right, technicians. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.